In this video, I want to show you how I letter and label my hand-drawn fantasy maps. Let's do it. Like all my videos, I want to encourage you to draw your own maps, spend some time creating your own stuff, and I hope to show you that not only is it super fun and rewarding, but it's also not that difficult and you shouldn't be intimidated by it. In past videos, I've explained a lot of different ways on how to draw all kinds of different maps, but I haven't been very specific about how to letter and label those maps. So in this video, I want to share with you a few of the things that I think about while I'm lettering and labeling all of my maps. So to start things out, I've already drawn this little map of Dragontown and the surrounding areas. Side note, I am super excited about all the stuff I have planned coming up for this Dragontown. Lots of fun videos that I hope will be super helpful to you. So if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe and keep an eye out for more fun stuff having to do with this Dragontown. Anyway, back to the map. So the way I typically do things is to use a pencil and plan everything out first and then use a pen over top of it and ink. I'm doing things a little bit backwards in this case because I've already drawn the map and I've just left these 4 spaces for different labels to go. But really, I would suggest plan out your labels while you're planning out your map and make sure everything works together. So I'm using a pencil to draw out the letters and really get everything planned before going back with my Papermate Flare Medium pen, in case you're wondering what pen I'm using for all of this, and inking up and finalizing everything on top of the pencils. Now you might be asking, why not just use a font and letter this on the computer? Well, I think if you are hand drawing a map, you might as well hand letter it too, so everything looks cohesive. And I just think there's a lot of value in making something look like someone actually made it, someone actually drew it and wrote the words, while doing stuff on the computer using fonts, all that still looks awesome. I think there is a little bit of something that is lost when it's just stamps and repeated letters that all look the same. Yeah, there's just something really special about hand drawing and doing it yourself. The other thing you might be asking is, it looks like all I'm doing is just drawing a little box and then writing letters in. That's not very helpful, but there is a lot more to it. So before I get into all the little details about what I'm actually thinking about and how I construct these labels, I do want to keep this simple and encouraging. So there is a lot of terminology and very technical stuff when it comes to writing letters, all kinds of different terms and techniques to it. But for the purposes of this video and creating your own maps, I think if you focus on just a couple of things, it can give you the confidence to hand letter something yourself and make an awesome looking, awesomely labeled map. Okay, all that being said, if there's one thing you take away from this video, the number one most important thing to think about when lettering is consistency. So however you decide to write your letters, as long as you do it consistently, it'll look good. Okay, so how do I keep my letters and words looking consistent? I think about just a couple of things. So what I'm going to do here is use this pink and green color pen in place of what I would typically do with my pencil. Just so you can see it more clearly, but just picture this pink pen that I'm using as a pencil instead. So the first thing I'm thinking about is the height and the width of the letters. So to get a consistent height and width, the easiest thing to do is draw a grid. I'm freehanding this, just eyeballing it, because like I said, I want this stuff to look hand-drawn, but you can totally use a ruler. So this is my favorite ruler. It is a clear, it's very scuffed up, so you might not even be able to see, but there is a 1/8 of an inch grid all over this ruler. It's perfect for making a line and then moving the ruler up a little bit or to the side or whatever, and then you can see the line that you just made through the ruler, line it up again, and make another line. So really great for lettering to have one of these clear gridded rulers. You can just make your little grid boxes super easy with one of these. But I'm freehanding it. I don't want stuff to look super rigid and tight. So the main thing here is all of your letters are the same width and height. For this Dragontown label I'm drawing here, you know, the D and the T, the first letter in the words, I'm making uppercase and bigger, but they are the same height and the same width. And then, you know, for all the lowercase stuff, it's the same. Obviously, there's places where the letters go below or above. So like the G hangs below the other letters. If there was something like an I or a T or an L or whatever, those would go above. Pick a size that fits in with your map and keep the letters a consistent height and width. So there are a few exceptions to this, especially if you're drawing a grid out like I have. So you'll notice that in between the T and the O, it looks like there's a bunch of extra space, but really that's just like an optical illusion that sometimes happens with narrower letters. So, you know, obviously like a lowercase L isn't going to take up the same width as a lowercase o. And in this case, it looks like there's extra space in between this uppercase T and the O. So you do have to kind of account for that and move things around and adjust the spacing in between the letters. Okay, so the next big thing I think about, and this is where all this stuff can get very complicated, but I'm going to keep it super simple and just say the thing I think about are the verticals and the horizontals of the letters. So I've drawn this E in the word Emberspire, and I'm making the decision that even though this E is going to be a little bit bigger than the rest of the word, that the horizontal, the middle horizontal stroke on the E is going to be in the same location all the way across the rest of the word. So that means that the point of the M goes down to that same spot. It means the middle horizontal of the B goes to the same spot. The little sticky outy bit in the middle of the E is in the same spot all the way down the rest of this word. So the same way you think about all the letters are going to be this high, the middle parts of these letters are going to be in the same spot all the way across. Now the other thing, it's not just the width of the letters, but it's the width of the lines that make up the letters. So in this case, I'm making all of the vertical parts of each letter thicker than the horizontal parts of the letters. So now we're starting to get into the sort of decoration of the letters, and I think one of the big decorative decisions when we're talking about labeling a map is if you're going to use a serif or a sans serif typeface. So basically, think of a serif as the little pokey outy bits on the edges of the letters. That's the super technical term, pokey outy bits. So usually a serif typeface is used in where there's big blocks of text, big paragraphs filled with text, adds extra horizontal line. It makes it easier to read from line to line. For the sake of illustrating a map, a serif becomes more decorative and can kind of give an old school feel by adding these little pokey outy bits. And really that gets into the stylization, the style of the letters that you're drawing, writing to label your map. So here you can see I've copied this map and I've used my pencil to come up with a few different styles of labels. So I've kept all of this stuff in mind, the width, the height, the space in between the letters, the verticals and the horizontals, all that stuff in my head as I'm penciling, figuring this stuff out. But really, I just want to try and stylize these labels to sort of indicate what type of place this might be on the map. So for Dragontown, I've done this serif font that's a little more playful. I've adjusted some of the heights of the letters and kind of allowed the letters to interact with each other a little bit. So where the swoop of the R comes up, that raises up the left part of the A, and the O that's in between the T and the W in town is shrunken down to sort of have everything fit and look nice together. And again, I have made my verticals thicker than my horizontals to kind of give it that classic look, but I've made it more playful by making my serifs, my little serif pokey outy bits, not just be perfectly horizontal, but kind of put them at an angle here and there, just to give the words a little bit more character. So moving up into the Ember Spire Mountains, I still want this to be super legible, but for this label, I'm making it scribbly and a little bit darker, hopefully to give this area the feel that it's a little bit more dangerous up here in the Ember Spire Mountains. This is where the monsters live, and hopefully that comes across by the style that I've used in this lettering. On the flip side of that, the Windsong Woods is maybe a more peaceful place, so I've gone with a script, like a cursive style lettering. Again, all of the same kind of rules apply. I'm trying to keep all the O's exactly the same size, exactly the same height and width, and they're the same as the loops on the D, keeping it consistent, but also having a little bit more fun and making it a little more flowy gives it a completely different feel. And then lastly, I tried to do this sort of Lord of the Rings Tolkien style lettering for the Gold Sea. I think all that stuff was beautifully written with specific calligraphy type tools to give those diagonally swooping lines the right feel, and I'm just trying to mimic it with a felt tip pen. So maybe not so successful. But the other quick thing I want to mention is that if you have a big open expansive place on a map, like a big desert or an ocean, one thing that can make it feel much more expansive is to put much more space in between each of the letters. So I'll probably shrink these letters down and put more space into it to make it feel like this Gold Sea goes on for miles and miles and miles and is much bigger than just this little corner of this map. So yeah, that's it. Those are my tips for getting started lettering your own maps. With all this stuff, just taking a little bit of time, doing a little bit of planning up front is going to go a long way to keeping things looking more consistent and awesome. And yeah, I just hope you give this a shot. It's so rewarding to create a map and then super fun to label everything. Let me know what you think down in the comments. So excited for all the videos coming up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!